Hey everyone, I hope you guys are having a great Easter and spending time with your family if you're able to. If not, making sure you're calling them and having interaction that way or texting them. It's a weird Easter, I know, with this quarantine, but let's cherish having time to spend with each other because it's not always guaranteed for tomorrow, but we are here today. And it's exciting, it's another day to be alive. It's an Easter day where we get to, honor and remember what really happened, and that's Jesus' resurrection. And so we at First Open Bible, I'm on staff there as the youth pastor, have been challenged to share our testimony with everyone. So I've got my notes over here on my screen, as you can tell through the reflection on my glasses, but just to keep me on track. But it's exciting to share our testimonies, but it's also it's nerve-wracking because it requires us to be a little vulnerable. It's something that you have to be able to share some not intimate, but some vulnerable things in your life of what you have overcome or been through. And so I hope this doesn't stop at me. I hope this is kind of a ripple effect. I want to challenge anyone listening to this to share your testimony and share how God has helped you through, or how God has become into your life, how you first met him, how God has changed you, so that today, as we're reflecting over what Jesus did on the cross and his resurrection, that we can spread the good news, which is the gospel, which is the life of Jesus. And so today, I'm going to share my testimony, but if you want to do as well, as I challenge you guys to do it, please share it and do a hashtag the difference, so that I can follow along with your guys' story, as well as you can follow along with ours at First Open Bible. So today, my testimony starts with I wasn't really raised early on in a Christian home. My parents, they weren't really Christians. It wasn't until I was a little bit older that we started going to church. But that was kind of my early on years, which kind of brought me into how God worked in my life. But God was still present in my life in those moments. He's always there, and you'll kind of see in a little bit on. But when I was younger, my parents were divorced when I was around 2. And when I was 5, I was attacked by a dog. And as you can tell, my face is, it's a little bit different on my left side than my right side, and that's because of that. And so, in those 2 instances, those 2 events, they shaped my life, because those were huge events that would carry on even until today. And so it was something that, these 2 stressors in my life, I held on to them. It wasn't just something that, happened and I just magically moved on, but they went through my life, and they're still, they still impact me today. I still have nightmares from the dog attack. I still not have to deal with, but I still am working through my parents and how they're divorced, and working through the dynamics of that. And so growing up, I had a hard time, dealing with anger and loneliness and self-image, even as silly as that sounds, but it happens. Those things are prevalent in many people's lives, and these things, these emotions that I had, they were mainly because of these 2 events in my life. And so it would cause me, with my anger, to lash out at people, or, to hide things, to feel like I had to be a certain way for people to like me, or, have friends or anything like that. So I got very good at putting on this facade to try and, make friends or be like everything's okay. And, I was left with a hole in my life because of that. I had to put on a mask, or I had to deal with these things because I wasn't sure. I was trying to fill something that was not being able to be filled. And so with that, I tried certain things to fill that void. I tried, filling it with friends, spending more times with friends. I tried filling it with with sports. I played sports throughout my entire life, and I still try and play sports and be active. I've tried and filled it with relationships with girls. I tried, the tactic of running away from my pain or running away from my past, or acting like everything was okay. But still, there was always this void in my life that never would go away. There was always something missing, something, that I wish or wanted more. And no matter what I tried to fill it with, it never would seem to quench that need that I had. Never filled it. And so all of these ways that I tried to fill it led to just more hurt. It led to, more anger or more emptiness. Like I never felt like I could fill that gap in my life. And so, like I said, I created this facade like everything was okay. I just said that, everything's okay. And I just went through my life, and it came to the point where, I started kind of believing that everything was okay. But deep down, I knew that something was missing. But it was just too hard to come to terms with what was, so I just moved on. And so I did that for my most of my life, and it's even kind of impacted in certain areas up until today. And it wasn't until I was I would say between 8 to 10 years old. I can't remember exactly the year, but my dad met my stepmom, who is still my stepmom, and she was going to a church, and my dad was like, yeah, we'll come along. And so we then Melinda would bring us kids to the church, and we'd go there, and it was a Methodist church. And so we went in there, and she worked there, and people were wonderful, and we made friends and whatnot. And we then continued to go, and I continued to learn about God and about these Bible stories, and I started learning more about who God was and who people in the Bible were, and it was awesome. And then we met some other friends, and they were going to another church, and they had a great kids program. And so we then transitioned to that church, and it was Journey Church in Rockford. It was actually Loves Park area. And so we started going to that church, and I started making friends there, and some of my best friends are there. Actually, one of my best friends I met there. And so met there and started learning and starting actually like growing and like saying, okay, I want more of this guy that supposedly helps you get through all these hard things. And I had some hard things in my past that I had yet to move on from. And so I was like, if that person can help me, then I want to learn more about him. And so it wasn't until I went to church camp for a few years, and I was in the early years of high school, and that's when I really had my first experience with God. And for some of you that might sound weird or crazy, but I had been through my life with some fake relationships, or putting on facades, and people around me putting on facades like everything was going to be okay. And that's okay in all terms, but we as people want to have genuine relationships. And it was one of the first times that I finally had this experience in like relationship with someone that was totally genuine. There was someone that opened my eyes to all the pain that I had in my life, that I repressed in my life, and tried to just move on. And all the built up anger and all the people I'd hurt were all of a sudden they were coming to the surface in my life. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And in those moments where I was completely vulnerable with God, it helped me start to deal with those things, saying, it's okay to feel those things for the people that have hurt me, or the events that have hurt me. That it's okay to be angry sometimes, but it's never okay to just repress it. You have to deal with those things. And so God, in those years past, or not past, but after that church camp, I started to deal with those things. Not to say that I was perfect. I made mistakes. I made things that I not regret, but wish I wouldn't have. I learned from them. I grew from those things. But it was that moment that Jesus did a heart check in my life, and I realized if I kept going the way that I was, that I wouldn't like the result. I wouldn't like where it would take me. And so in that moment, when I experienced God for the first time, He started changing things in my life, and I stopped lying. I stopped, I wasn't as angry anymore, and now you could call me one of the most laid back people ever. And that's because of God. He's helped me create patience and more of an even temper. But it wasn't until college, I would say, that I had the moment where God opened my eyes the most. He opened my eyes to all of my anger, people that I've hurt, all the hurts that I've had, things that I've been carrying for my life. And in that moment, God started really downloading in my life. And that sounds weird for some, but it wasn't until then that God opened the door to ministry. I'm a youth pastor now. I've been for almost 4 years, which is crazy. If you would have asked me in high school, I would have laughed at you. But I look back now on my life and all the people that I've met, all the relationships that I've had, all the people that have come and gone through my life, and it was all of those things in my life that God was preparing me or using in my life to create a testimony. And what's a testimony? It's literally your life story. And what I hope that is my testimony from the things from some of you guys who knew me in high school or even middle school, or know me as a pastor. I hope that my testimony can show you that no one is discounted by God. I've made mistakes in my life, but God, He's able to forgive our sins or the mistakes that we've had in our life. He can help you get through the hard times. If you don't know, recently my father passed away, and that was, if not the hardest, one of the hardest things that I've had to go through in my life. That, and then my dog attack and my parents being divorced. But I was a lot younger when those two happened, and I was older recently in my 20s when my dad passed away. And you have all these, not expectations, but you have all these dreams that you want to do with your father, with your parents. And it's hard knowing that I'll never get to do those. I'll never get to have those moments with my dad or ask questions to my dad anymore. And so as a young man, that's a hard bridge to cross. And if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have been able to get through it as well as I have. If it wasn't for the people that God has brought into my life, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And so, God can work good things in your life. You may not believe in God, but He does good things for you. He's able to work in your life and get you through the hard things and help you deal with things in your life, like anger, like things that you've made mistakes with relationships, or different things in your life. And so we're not all perfect. Let me tell you that. We're not all perfect, but He'll give you the ability to talk to others and, open doors for you to speak into others' lives. Like I'm able to speak into teenagers' lives who are going through the same things that I've messed up with, or, I can give them wisdom on how not to make the same mistakes that I have. And so I want you to know that Jesus is the reason for Easter. He's the reason why I'm a pastor today. He's the reason why that, we're able to do the things that we are. And I hope that today that this is an encouragement, but also, I hope that it opens your eyes that, there is something missing from your life if you don't know Jesus. That, he can do great things in your life. And so I want to say that if you're hearing this, this testimony, if you're hearing this and you want to know more about Jesus, or you've heard my story, and you want to reach out for encouragement, or you've known me in the past and you're like, what, how could you be a pastor now, or how'd you get through your father passing away, or how did you overcome anger, or anything like that, and you want to just talk it out, please feel free to message me on Facebook, or comment below, and we'll talk, because it's better to do this together. And so I want to challenge that. I know my life's not perfect. I know I've made mistakes, but I want to say that, if I've ever hurt you in my past, if you're hearing this and you have unforgiveness towards me, I want to say that I'm sorry. I truly am sorry from the bottom of my heart for the mistakes that I've done. I was immature. I've been through a lot of things, but that's not an excuse. That I fully stand by my actions and the consequences or the mistakes that I've made. And I want to say that I'm sorry for anything or any hurts that I've caused. God really has changed my life. I'm a work in progress, like anybody else, but I want to say that, if you want to know more about Jesus, I'd love to pray with you. I'd love to talk with you. Feel free to message me, private message me, call me, text me, ask me questions. But I hope this is an encouragement for you. And I want to challenge you to share your testimony, share what you've been through in your life and how you've overcome that, just to help those who, may be going through a tough situation in this epidemic time, or maybe trying to get through anger or depression, or, anything like that. It's better to know that other people have gone through things and they've overcome that God has helped them get through that. So please feel free to share. Message me, share your own testimony, and remember the hashtag, the difference. But I love you. I care about you all, and I hope you guys are having a great Easter. Talk to you later.